This is BBC News with the latest headlines for viewers in the UK and around the world.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the sands of past life.
NASA's most ambitious mission to Mars has just landed successfully on the red planet. This was the moment when the rover called Perseverance finally made it.
To work through all the adversity that goes and all the challenges that go with landing a rover on Mars, plus the challenges of COVID and just an amazing accomplishment.
And this, the first image beamed back by the rover, its shadow clearly seen as it tweets, "I'm safe on Mars, Perseverance will get you anywhere." Also, Facebook unfriends Australia. The social networking giant blocks access to news media on its site in a row over paying for content. Millions of Texans are without power for a fourth day straight after gas pipelines and wind turbines freeze over in a winter storm. And as Texas froze, Ted Cruz flew to Mexico. Has the Republican senator left his reputation out in the cold? Hello and a warm welcome if you're watching in the UK and around the world. I'm Kasia Madeira. Do stay with us for the latest news and analysis from here and across the globe. First, however, we're going to start on another planet, Mars in fact, where the NASA Perseverance rover has safely touched down. It's already started sending back messages from its new home and will now set about the business of trying to find signs that Mars was once and could even still be a planet where life took hold. Here's our science correspondent Rebecca Morell, and I do have to warn you that her report does contain some flashing images.
Perseverance is going about 1 kilometer per second.
A nerve-wracking wait at mission control.
Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars.
Then celebrations as a signal is received from Mars. It's touchdown for NASA's Perseverance rover. And these are its first images, a view of its landing site before it starts to explore. The rover's even started tweeting too. "I'm safe on Mars. Perseverance will get you anywhere."
What an amazing team to work through all the adversity that goes and all the challenges that go with landing a rover on Mars, plus the challenges of COVID and just an amazing accomplishment.
It survived a fiendishly difficult landing, burning through the atmosphere at 12,000 miles an hour before a complex landing system brought it down in an area with some of the oldest rocks on Mars.
It's amongst the most ancient crust on the surface of Mars, capturing that period of time between 3.5 and 4 billion years old, which isn't a period of time that's particularly well preserved in rocks here on Earth. So we have a chance to find out about a period of the solar system that we've never studied before.
This mission is all about finding signs of life, and the best place to do that is here, the Jezero crater. Today it's dry and dusty, but billions of years ago it was a huge lake, and you can clearly see a river running into it. This gives you an idea of what it would have looked like. If we zoom in a bit more, these green areas on the edge of the crater were once beaches on the lake shore, and the hope is any microscopic creatures that once lived there are still preserved. Perseverance is the most advanced rover that NASA's ever built, and it's jam-packed with instruments. Its robotic arm is equipped with a drill to collect rock samples. So what forms of life could they contain?
I am not talking about Martian little green men, probably not even fish. We're looking for microbial life, or maybe microbes that have made a little mat or a slime of sorts that you might find on the bottom of a pond. Those are the types of things that are likely to, well, they did exist on Earth 3.5 billion years ago. The question is, did they exist on Mars at the bottom of lakes?
For the first time, NASA will also be testing a mini Mars helicopter to provide a new bird's-eye view of the planet. And back on the ground, the rover will store some of the rocks. A future mission will bring them back to Earth, and some will be heading to the UK.
These will be the most precious samples that we have on Earth, the most exciting, and scientists around the world will be absolutely fighting and clamouring to study them.
Getting to the red planet is just the start. Now the hard work begins. This is NASA's most ambitious mission and our best ever chance to know whether life ever existed on Mars. Rebecca Morell, BBC News.
What an extraordinary achievement. Let's talk to Dr. Bryony Horgan, who's an Associate Professor of Planetary Sciences at Purdue University in the US, and you are one of those scientists working on this mission. We heard Steve Yurchuk say that this was an amazing team. Congratulations being part of this amazing team. Thanks to your work with the cameras on Perseverance, we're seeing images now.
Right. We are so excited to get those first images back. You know, the landing is one thing, but when we first get to see those rocks through those images, it's so exciting.
So talk us through just, we hear about the 7 minutes of terror. Let's start just before we got those images. Talk us through what on earth must have been going through your mind emotionally.
So many emotions. It's it's so hard to land on Mars. I think that's what's so important to understand, that even today, you know, we've learned so much. It is still so risky and so dangerous. And, you know, the JPL engineers completely pulled it off. It was such a huge relief to hear that we touched down on the ground safely and to get those first incredible images back.
And when it comes to the specific work that you were doing, given that we're in a pandemic, it must have been so incredibly hard to get that level of expertise together and the fine detail. Talk us through a little bit of how you all worked.
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredibly difficult to do this remotely. Normally, we would all be together in Pasadena, you know, at landing, ready to dive right in. But it's been tough, you know, getting this mission going through the pandemic. But, you know, NASA has done a fantastic job diverting resources, really making it happen. And on the science team, I think we've really learned how to work together remotely. And that's going to be incredibly important in the months to come as we, you know, start running the Rover remotely from, you know, our houses at 4 a.m. as a team. That teamwork will be really critical.
Well, listen, congratulations. It's just phenomenal. When it comes to the pictures themselves, we've seen already memes have popped up. Have you seen the one with Bernie Sanders on within the image? It's just incredible what people are doing. But talk us through what we can expect to see, what we've already seen when it comes to the images that Perseverance has fed through.
So the images we've gotten already, these were from the hazard cameras. These are sort of the rovers, the cameras the rover uses to drive semi-autonomously on the surface. And they were through the caps that are on there to protect it during landing. So they're a little fuzzy. So we'll get much more beautiful, high resolution, even color images, hopefully by the end of the day today, or worst case tomorrow. So we're hoping to be able to start doing geology right away with some of these incredible images, even as soon as tonight.
It's just extraordinary, isn't it? And how long is the lifespan of this little rover? How many more images, messages can we expect to see from it?
Hopefully thousands and thousands. So our nominal mission is 1.5 Mars years. That's about 3 Earth years. But we're hoping to keep going beyond that. You know, these rovers, Spirit, Opportunity, Curiosity, have all well outlasted their warranty from JPL. And we're hoping to do the same thing with Perseverance, to keep persevering through Jezero Crater, out onto the rim and out into the surrounding plains for years to come.
Perseverance certainly paying off. And when it comes to this search for what possibly could have been ultimately life on Mars, what is your absolute hope to find?
Oh, I would love to find, you know, clear signs of microbes. For example, something like a stromatolite, which is one of the best pieces of evidence for ancient life in the Earth's geologic record. There are these big domal layered structures that grow when microbes are growing in shallow water and have minerals precipitating, and they're something you can see with your naked eye. So something like that would be the best thing we could possibly find. But, you know, any ancient sign of life would be absolutely incredible and a complete game changer for science.
Well, do promise that you will come and join us as and when if you do find that. Dr. Horgan, congratulations once again. An incredible achievement to get those images from Perseverance so quickly. Thank you for talking us through that.
Thanks so much.
Lots more, of course, on our website about that. But now let's turn to Facebook, because it's facing criticism from around the world after blocking people in Australia from viewing news content on its site in protest at a proposed new law. The Prime Minister of Australia, Scott Morrison, says that he will not be intimidated by the social media company amid a row over plans to force internet firms to pay for news shared on their platforms. Our media editor, Amal Rajan, reports.
This is the internet, but not as we've known it. Never before have a democracy and tech giant collided as they have in the past 36 hours, and the aftershocks are likely to spill out across the globe. Australians woke up to a new world, unable to access news sources via Facebook, after the social media giant carried through on its threat to the government there. What's this all about? Well, over the past 2 decades, 2 deep global trends have occurred simultaneously. First, advertiser-funded Facebook and Google have become 2 of the richest companies in history. Second, the business model of newspapers has collapsed. What connects these 2 trends is advertising. A generation ago, high-quality newspapers were largely funded by advertising. Today, most advertising is online, and Facebook and Google account for around about 60% of all global digital advertising. That is a duopoly, and publishers want in on it. This is about who owes what and to whom. Led by Rupert Murdoch, Australia's newsrooms argue that their expensive journalism makes these tech platforms more attractive and gives them credibility. Australia's government agrees.
This is an assault on a sovereign nation. It is an assault on people's freedom, and in particular, it is an utter abuse of big technology's market power and control over technology.
Yet the data giants have strong counter-arguments. Publishers choose to be on Facebook because they derive value from it, both reach and traffic that can be monetised. The tech giants have set up funds to invest heavily in journalism. And moreover, they say forcing anyone to pay someone just for linking to them breaches a fundamental principle of the web and privileges one category of information, news, over others.
They want money so that people can link. Now, this kind of breaks down the way that the World Wide Web has worked up until now, and it kind of sets a dangerous precedent.
Google has taken a different approach, signing a bespoke global deal with Murdoch's company, News Corp. That leaves Facebook short of friends. Amol Rajan, BBC News.
We can discuss this further with Dr. Dana McKay from the University of Melbourne. Good to have you with us. So now that we've had a bit of time to digest the impact of Facebook's decision, it's been interesting to see that it's not just those kind of traditional news outlets that are no longer being offered via Facebook, but it's other services as well, like weather and health and safety.
Yep, not just those groups either. Lots of small community groups have been affected as well. I literally just had a message, ironically, on Facebook from a friend saying that lots of her writers group have had their pages taken down. So it's a whole range of sites and not just news. So it's been quite widely impactful on a range of different groups. The state health organisations, which I believe have now been their block has now been rolled back, are of course the most important at the moment because they're the ones providing information about the pandemic to Australians.
So when people are reacting to this, what are you finding? Are people helping each other in finding ways around it?
Absolutely. I'm not going to share those with you obviously now on the news, but if you search on Twitter, there are quite a few ways that have already been detected to work around this block. And I think it's important too because it's not just preventing Australians from accessing news on Facebook, it's also preventing the rest of the world from accessing news about Australia, which, given that there are 1.2 million Britons in Australia, that's a lot of news that their friends and family aren't getting, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. And when it comes to, there's a movement, international movement, #delete Facebook. What kind of uptake is there within Australia, given how many people use this particular social media site?
I think that will be an interesting thing to see. So obviously we've seen something like this with the Cambridge Analytica scandal a few years ago. But the problem is, especially in the middle of this pandemic where we're physically separated from our friends and family, Facebook is one key piece of social infrastructure. And to delete Facebook, you might also be having to find workarounds for those relationships that you're maintaining on Facebook, keeping up with your friends, your family, your loved ones who are in the next town or overseas. So I don't know that we'll see a lot of traction on that immediately. However, I do think it's significantly damaged Facebook's brand.
Interesting
and
point.
if a competitor were to enter the market now, it would be very bad for Facebook.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, absolutely interesting point. We're going to have to leave it there. But Dr. Dana McKay from the University of Melbourne, really good to get your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Let's bring you up to date with some of the day's other news stories. Scientists tracking the coronavirus pandemic say that there's been a strong decline in COVID infection levels in England since the current lockdown began. Imperial College London's REACT study found that rates have dropped by 2/3, but there are warnings that virus levels are still high, with 1 in 200 people testing positive. A Belarus court has jailed 2 television journalists for 2 years on charges of fomenting protest for filming a rally against the country's leader. Katerina Andreeva and Daria Khulstova were arrested in a Minsk apartment block in November while live streaming an unauthorized protest. They are with a Poland-based Belsat television. The Duke of Edinburgh is to spend a 3rd night in hospital in London after being admitted as a precaution after feeling unwell for a few days. Prince Philip, who will be 100 in June, is said to be in good spirits. Do stay with us here on BBC News. Still to come, millions of Texans are suffering a 4th day with no power after gas pipelines and wind turbines freeze over a winter storm.
9 years and 15,000 deaths after going into Afghanistan, the last Soviet troops were finally coming home. The withdrawal completed in good order, but the army defeated in the task it had been sent to perform.
Malcolm has been murdered. That has a terrible effect on the morale of the people. I'm terrified of the repercussions in the streets. One wonders who is next.
As the airlift got underway, there was no let-up in the eruption itself. Lava streams from a vent low in the crater flow down to the sea on the east of the island, away from the town for the time being. It could start flowing again at any time.
The Russians heralded their new generation space station with a spectacular night launch. They've called it Mir, the Russian for peace.
Welcome back. You're watching BBC News. Our main headlines this hour.
Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars. Ready.
NASA's most ambitious mission to Mars has landed successfully on the red planet. And Facebook unfriends Australia. The social networking giant blocks access to news media on its site in a row over paying for content. A blast of Arctic weather has brought with it blizzards and record low temperatures across the United States, including to many southern states unused to such weather. In Texas, it has sparked an energy crisis. At one point, more than 4 million households were without power. Our US correspondent, Lebu DeSeco, reports from Houston.
This is one of the richest states in one of the richest countries in the world. Drinking water and food supplies running dangerously low, and homes are flooding because pipes, once frozen, have now burst.
Last night we got power after 2 days, and we didn't have water, but finally we got water. Now we have water everywhere.
Texas would normally be around 15 degrees Celsius at this time of year. As temperatures hit -18 in some parts this week, the state was unable to cope. Many here are dealing with a 4th day without electricity after the power grid failed. State Governor Greg Abbott has been criticised after blaming frozen wind turbines for the collapse of the electricity grid. Today, power was restored for some, but officials are warning that progress will be slow.
That said, I also want to be clear with Texans, because you need to know there will be more cold temperatures in various regions across the state of Texas tonight.
Many scientists say this is the impact of a changing climate. Warm air moving up to the Arctic, forcing cold air down to states like this one. It was colder in Texas this week than in Alaska. In the midst of this crisis, kindness. These sea turtles would have frozen to death had it not been for volunteers braving the weather to rescue them.
is forecast to be dangerously cold once again tonight, and Texans are being told to make a plan to keep their families warm as the threat of power outages looms once more. Lebel Diseko, BBC News, Houston, Texas.
Well, let's go to Frisco in Texas and talk to Alex Perrick, who, as you can see, is ice fishing in a pond in front of your apartment. Alex, talk us through the weather conditions there.
How's it going? Yes, it's been insane. We have had below freezing temperatures now for 4 straight days, and we're going to have some cold temperatures for the next couple of days as well. So I'm taking advantage of it and on the ice. You most certainly are. Now, I've got to say, it's colder in Texas than in Alaska at the moment. You're used to this kind of conditions. You're the owner of fishfrostbite.com. You sell ice fishing equipment. So this is something that you are used to. But when it comes to your neighbours and friends, they must be, well, talk us through their feelings.
Yeah, it's been very serious here. A lot of broken pipes and a lot of heaters that have not been able to work due to the fact of rolling blackouts we've had here. So the power kind of comes on for 30 minutes and then comes off. It's very unpredictable, and it's kind of scary.
It's kind of scary. And are you getting information as to when these blackouts will resolve themselves?
Very unclear. They're kind of just letting us know it could be days, it could be hours. No real sign from any officials or anybody from the electrical company.
And talk us through, how rare is it to see that pond in front of your apartment ice over like that?
Yeah, I've never heard of anything like this. Obviously, I'm pretty young, so I haven't been around for that long. But talking to elderly people and talking to more locals around here, they said they've never seen ice like this. And it's kind of crazy. Just moved here, own an ice fishing company, and now I'm able to ice fish. So not sure if I brought down the cold weather or what happened, but it's cold.
It certainly looks cold. You've shared some images, the wildlife as well, having difficulties with this kind of extreme weather, and you've caught a fish live on BBC News. There it is.
We have a fish on BBC News. Yes!
I promised to our viewers that was not staged. What's going to happen with your catch, Alex?
Let it go right now.
Letting it go. That's a decent thing to do. Back in the water it goes. You couldn't make this up. There you go. Oh, well done. Alex, so just, you've got to tell me, that's not the usual thing to happen, is it?
No, that is definitely not. I've never caught a fish through the ice in Texas until then, and that's pretty crazy.
And just one final thought. I mean, do you know when this is going to end? What's your hope?
Yeah, so it looks like on Sunday we're going to start to get some warmer weather to when it would melt the ice and the snow that's on the roads. But due to the fact that this is Texas, major roads are all shut down. There's ice everywhere, and it looks like we'll be kept put until about Sunday.
All right, well, we wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for On Cue catching a fish live on BBC News. Alex Perrick, an ice fisherman for real. Thank you for your time. Best of luck to you and all your friends.
Thank you.
Well, as you saw there, Texas does continue to struggle with those sub-zero temperatures, those widespread power cuts that we heard from Alex about. But the high-profile Republican senator for the state, Ted Cruz, has run into some stormy weather of his own by flying to a Mexican holiday resort. Well, as you can imagine, once news of his trip became public, it attracted a barrage of criticism on social media. He was then photographed getting onto a plane out of Cancun back to the US. So let's cross over to talk to our North America correspondent David Willis, joining us live now. So David, where is Ted Cruz?
Ted Cruz is on his way back, Kasia. This really is a stunning misjudgment, isn't it? And if you like, an unforced political error on the part of a man who is known to entertain presidential ambitions for 4 years from now. Indeed, Ted Cruz ran for president 4 years ago, only to lose out to Donald Trump. And he basically said that he went down, he was planning a family holiday during the Senate recess with his family. He said he was going down yesterday, coming back today, and he was doing it because of his children. He did it for his daughters because he wanted to be a good dad. But it's since emerged that he was due to stay there until Saturday, but only brought his flight back forward after this storm that is engulfing him now, as political storm, not a meteorological one. Ted Cruz has been called upon to resign by Democrats in the state of Texas, and as I say, it is a truly extraordinary political error on the part of somebody who has a lot of political ambition still, to be out of the state at a time when many of his constituents and freezing cold, and in some cases are actually dying because of the temperatures there.
David, thank you so much for bringing us up to date, and any updates we will come to you, I am sure. But for the time being, David Willis, our North America correspondent, on the whereabouts of Ted Cruz, thank you so much. We will, of course, continue to bring you up to date with all the latest developments. Lots of memes, as you can imagine. I've even seen an image of Ted Cruz superimposed on Mars from the Rover Perseverance. You've got to check that out online. For the time being, as always, do get in touch with me via Twitter. I'm at BBC Kasia Madeira. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.